Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock. We're going to have John Ramdeen and Robin Black coming up in a few minutes. In today's news, the television numbers are in from this past weekend with the UFC and Bellator presenting shows. Donald Cerrone earned strike one from USADA, and the UFC will host another pay-per-view event from Brazil in the first quarter of 2016. It was announced on Saturday at the UFC post-fight press conference that the UFC is returning to Brazil with the UFC 197 pay-per-view event on Saturday, March the 5th from the HSBC Arena in Rio de Janeiro. Originally, there had been rumors of a big stadium event for March, but they will instead be running the smaller arena. No fights have been announced as of yet, but it is possible Anderson Silva could fight on this card, given that his suspension by the Nevada Athletic Commission expires at the end of January. The television numbers from this past weekend are in. Bellator 145 on Friday night averaged 814,000 viewers over the course of the 3+ hour event on Spike TV and peaked for the Bobby Lashley-James Thompson fight with 1,048,000 viewers watching the very quick fight. The UFC Fight Night event the next evening on FS1 averaged 722,000 viewers for the main card, which was headlined by Vitor Belfort and Dan Henderson. Now, it's not a direct comparison, as Spike TV is available in 8 million more homes than FS1. The prelim fights from Brazil had 609,000 viewers leading into the main card. And Donald Cerrone was a guest on the Pirate Life podcast with Tate Fletcher and noted that USADA recently showed up at his home and Cerrone had left for Las Vegas and received a whereabouts failure from USADA. If a fighter gets 3 whereabouts failures, then it results in an actual violation. Providing Cerrone doesn't have 2 more infractions, he will be fighting Rafael dos Anjos for the lightweight title December 19th on Fox in Orlando, Florida. This coming Saturday, you'll want to be at your home when we come knocking because we will have our live pre-fight show starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Gabe Morency, and myself. And then immediately after the main event concludes, flip on back to Fight Network for an extensive post-show, including the post-fight press conference from Melbourne, Australia. Here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, lots to talk about as the UFC gets set for their first event in Melbourne, Australia on Saturday night. But quickly tying up things from last weekend, interesting television numbers, the fact that Bellator doing just over 800,000 viewers for their fight and peaking for the Bobby Lashley-James Thompson fight. Surprised by that?
No, not at all. I mean, for Bobby Lashley, there's crossover fans. You know, if you followed the world of professional wrestling, chances are you followed Bobby Lashley's career into mixed martial arts because people are like, well, how is this guy going to do? And he kind of shit the bed, so to speak, in the early part of his career. But you have to look at the fact that the things that he has been doing to improve, and I think as much as Thompson injured himself, the Bobby Lashley we got to see on Friday is the Bobby Lashley I think we all hoped that we would see, this powerhouse wrestler that takes you down and he's furious with his attack on top. So I'm not surprised. Actually, I'm surprised that the numbers were where they were, but not when you consider.
There was a bit of a tune-up factor then for the championship fights afterwards, which I would be concerned with that. And it's something that has been discussed in terms of you watch a Bellator event, and yes, the theory is we're going to put our key fighters underneath these draws that are going to bring them in. However, I don't see any evidence that your Chandlers, that your Will Brooks have necessarily benefited because you watch that broadcast, you're told who the stars of this promotion are and who are not your main guys. And Michael Chandler and Will Brooks, they're tremendous fighters.
Yeah, I know.
But they don't feel like they are positioned as your stars. Even Daniel Strauss, that huge title win, it was an afterthought to the announcements they made on Friday.
So many things now are binary. It's either A or B. And when you market something, say on the internet, you're either going to do like BuzzFeed, where it's going to be dumber and dumber and louder and more cats burping and doing whatever they do, or you're going to do something really smart or long form or deeper analytical. It's only one or the other. If you're going the BuzzFeed way, it's got to get dumber, it's got to get bigger, it's got to get brighter, you got to do more of it. That is ultimately what has to happen. If you go the smarter way, it's a longer, harder slog, but if you get there, you make fans forever. Bellator feels like it's doing BuzzFeed, and I say that because we also have Shamrock versus Gracie, which is interesting, but they're also 100 years old. Then we have Kimbo versus someone Kimbo hates. And I mean, ultimately, if we keep doing that, and like Pollock, you mentioned, we're not building the other stars, you got to do that forever.
But at the same time, yes, you look at the names that you mentioned, they're there to attract a casual audience. When you look at Daniel Strauss and Pitbull and Michael Chandler and Will Brooks and some of the talent, the real talent that the Bellator organization has, where do they rank? Should people be tuning into these guys because of their skill set?
You know, if you keep pulling in, we're calling them casual fans. There are different layers of casual fans. Ronda Rousey, if they do 60,000 people in a stadium this weekend, 20,000 will be hardcore UFC fans who gotta go. And whatever that number is between 20 and 60 are people who would see Beyonce if she was there or see Ronda if she was there. And how many of those can you retain? I mean, if you think about what we do, we don't obsessively talk about who hates who and who's dating who. That's the BuzzFeed stuff. We try to educate people. We try to bring people along for the ride. That's the harder route, but I think it's the longer lasting route.
I think that as well as your Bellator, and it's a broken record. We've discussed this. It's a formula that's currently working for them. And sometimes we have to accept that there's a lot of fans out there who don't look at this and want to break down technique, that don't want to look at this. They just want to see a car crash. And Kimbo Slice and Dada 5000, I think, is going to represent that. There's a backstory. It's probably not going to get out of 3 minutes. And that's the kind of formula that a lot of people, it's a junk food fight that's fun and it can be viewed in that kind of a vacuum and probably by a lot of people.
But the problem is it's that same BuzzFeed mentality. Here's the problem, is if you put that on, you are not competing with other MMA fights. You're competing with high-level professional wrestling. You're competing with every movie that came out this weekend. You're competing with actual car crashes. So it has to get dumber because the whole world is doing more and more big, dumb things, and you can't watch them all at the same time. So the only direction is bigger and dumber. And that ultimately, it's not a permanent plan. It's a failing strategy.
But can you not combine the two? Obviously, you put your Kimbo Slices and your Ken Shamrock Hoist Gracies on there. But if you put real legitimate fights on the undercard,
that's what they're doing.
Which they are doing that as well.
They will put other fights on that Houston card, and that's where you'll probably find, whether it be a Will Brooks, a Michael Chandler, Phil Davis.
I think the heaviest point here is the point Pollock made right off the top. That's great. But if they tune out when that happens, or it doesn't make them longer-term fans, it doesn't make a difference. We get to see those guys, but it doesn't make a difference.
I continue to be very intrigued by where Bellator is going because they're trying to carve out a piece that no one else in MMA is essentially going for, at least in this part of the world. So there you have it. Those are our thoughts on the current state of Bellator. For Rob and John, I am John Pollock, and we have more Fight News Now Extra. Stay tuned.